have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Reality Rants. I am Jason Bermas, and today we are going to be looking at 2024, how it seems like the fix is already in no Democratic debates, but instead I see the opposition party, okay, and really, this is all a big global game, okay? I'm sorry, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. I'd like to see debates on both sides, but on the other side of the spectrum, the Democrats, of course, are going to encourage debates. I would even say probably throw their weight behind several different candidates each time, none of them being Trump, by the way. And I'm sure there will be calls to ban Trump from any type of a debate, if they even have them. What do I mean if they even have them? The Republicans will more than likely have debates, but will they be fractured? In other words, will some of these debates be something in which, you know, a CNN just says, we can't have Donnie T up there. He's literally Hitler. He's a Nazi. No Donnie T in these debates. And that would leave DeSantis and a slew of other people that are well behind him. Rand Paul is the only person that I can think of that has hinted at running for the presidency that I think in any meaningful way, shape, or form will be standing up there amongst the other candidates. I mean, you already have Chris Christie saying ludicrous things like he expects to be the nominee. No, Chris, you don't. You expect to eat 7 hoagie sandwiches every single day on the way to the election. And I'm sorry if that hurts people's feelings that I took a swipe at Christie, but not only is he a terrible politician, his physical representation is one of a Return of the Jedi, Jabba the Hutt-like villain. Like, sorry, buddy, there's no... I haven't seen a redeeming quality from Chris Christie. I've seen pomposity, I've seen arrogance, I've seen authoritarianism, but when he talks, and especially talking about the election or being a nominee, it reminds me of the uber cockiness of somebody like Michael Bloomberg. They're that out of touch. Now, the Democrats don't want any debates. Forget about what I just talked about with the Republicans and the fact that these networks that now control these presidential debates, and they were never supposed to do that. That was never the vehicle. You see, we used to accept the fact that politicians, when they were running for office, they got a thing called equal time. They got a thing called equal time. In other words, you couldn't be a network and give somebody else a bunch of time and then not give the opposition. a bunch of time. That's no longer even mentioned or a thing anymore. It's not even a thing because we have to protect democracy. And somehow, less voices. Yeah, that's how you protect democracy. Not more voices, more debate. Less voices, less speech. Let's prop up a zombie. Let's prop up a zombie. And I was watching, and I forget the guy's name all the time, but he's running for president, and he's doing the rounds. And he just had that altercation with Don Lemon, where that appears to be the last straw. And Don Lemon also on X on CNN. We're going to get into how it's now being reported that Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson have actually hired the same lawyer. And maybe a little more info on what may be behind the Tuckins getting the axe over at Fox. You know, like I'm not on the inside, so I couldn't tell you one way or the other. But I feel like, of course, this is narrative management. And there's certain reports out there that are saying that Tuck might get the golden handcuffs. And let's say he wanted to go independent. He signed up for past the election. Past the election. Jesse Ventura talked about this when he was hired by MSNBC. He said, yeah, no, they gave me my own show. I think it ran for like a month and a half. They already were paying me. But basically, I couldn't do anything for several years because they paid my contract and they had a no-compete clause. So I couldn't go and do this anywhere else. They've done that to a lot of people. Now, apparently that Tucker has a no disparity clause. So in other words, he can't disparage the other party. I don't know if that's true. It's what's being reported. I certainly don't think this was an actual mutual parting of the ways where they just said, you know, enough's enough. We don't want the most popular thing in nightly news, and you don't want to be on our network. That totally makes sense. Come on. And still, at the same time, unfortunately, you have some people that just continue to attack Tucker as controlled opposition. Okay? I'll just say this. Tucker, far from perfect. But what will it take? The firing isn't enough? What would it take for you to believe somebody isn't controlled opposition and that somebody made mistakes over the years, started to get it, and then is now talking like he gets it? Where in the past, look, Tuck was a right bastard. I've got Tuck the right bastard clip from MSNBC via David Ray Griffin all the way back, I believe, in 2006, where he's just ripping apart the 9/11 truth movement, talking about conspiracy theories, basically, you know, being the mainstream media muppet that so many of those on television and in the news still are. They're still those muppets. And I've got to give credit where credit is due. And to me, the Tuckins has stepped up to the plate. He's mentioning things like Building 7 in other interviews. He's talking about JFK and 9/11 in the same breath. He's talking about how the JFK assassination had CIA involvement. Really common knowledge for anybody that's actually been watching this stuff. But huge for, a mainstreamer to start talking about. It's a big deal. So we got a slew of clips, but where I want to start is, come on now. Come on now. Oprah Winfrey's coy response when asked if she's excited about 80-year-old Joe Biden's plan to run again in 2024. And I just want to, let me see if we got the clip. Yeah, let's play it. It's good stuff. There she is. She's got a pantsuit on. She's very powerful.
Oprah, what do you think about Joe Biden running for president again?
Come on.
How important? Is that very important?
Okay, can I get a picture of you?
No, thank you so much. Thank you. Come on now. Come on now. And here's the disconnect from reality, right? We're gaslit into believing every day. We're told we have to believe every single day that Joe Biden is the most popular president of all time, garnering the most votes ever in this country, period. He's the all-time winner. All right? And then you have to go with the reports now that 70% polled, even on the Democratic side, don't want Joe Biden to run. And then he puts out his re-election campaign ad yesterday. We're going to play it again because it's just so absurd. Now, the guy running, I can't remember what his name is. I think he's a businessman, an entrepreneur. I'm seeing him everywhere. I'm going to have to start getting his name right. But he's on Gutfeld last night, and he's talking about the permanent state. All right? And he's talking about the managerial class. And that's who's behind Biden. And quite frankly, I hadn't heard anybody out there talking about the Biden administration on a mainstream level as in depth to the reality of what we have, which is a puppet that is going to do the bidding of the party. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that say, this is Obama's third term. It's Obama's third term. Now, in a certain way, an aspect, it kind of is, because Obama was really a vessel for other people's interests. He was a propped up puppet, but a propped up puppet that had been groomed for this position really, more than likely, his whole life. You see the connections to his mother and who they say is his father, to the Kissinger Institute. You see that there was a revamping of Barry Soetoro's image into the Barack star almost immediately as he went into his collegiate career. Talk to anybody he went to high school with, his name was Barry Soetoro. Let me repeat that. His name was Barry Soetoro. And you don't change your name after elementary school and high school unless what? You have political aspirations or you have Hollyweird aspirations. And really, it's all entertainment. They're one and the same. So all of a sudden, the Barack star has a new name and a new persona, and they're working on his voice as well. I constantly forget the actor that Obama portrays. Yes, Obama portrays an actor. His voice coach is the Barack star's voice. I remember it was Mancow that first broke that story. And, you know, the guy is on record talking about how he and Barack spent a lot of time together. And then he denies that he was like his coach speech. They sound exactly the same. Anybody in the comments section over there got his name? Was it like Tony something or whatever? Like, let's see if we can find it. Mancow, Barack Obama actor. Let's see. Barack Obama actor. Yes, Harry Lennox is his name. Report. Obama is an actor trained by Harry Lennox. Now, when I say actor, and this is Paul Joseph Watson back in the day. Let's see if this is up. Oh, video unavailable. Shocking. Yeah, no kidding. None of these videos are going to be there. So, there we go.
So as we sat there and as I listened to Haj tell me about the people who he dressed, one of them was my dear friend who's recently passed away, Bernie Mac. And Bernie Mac, if you knew him, and many people do.
And many people do. No, that's not Barack. He doesn't have the mannerisms of Barack. He doesn't sound exactly like Barack. This guy didn't help groom Barack.
Was an exquisitely tailored man all the time. He looked like $1 million. So Haj and I decided that we would work on a wardrobe. This is where the story gets very interesting. So I was doing a film, my own film, this past winter, and all of the clothes that I had from other productions and other acquisitions I made over the years were stolen from a costume truck.
They were stolen from a costume truck. Again, yeah, he doesn't sound or look anything like the Barack star. That's really all we need. Harry Lennox is the name you can look into. It's so funny. Over here on the side here, you got the 2004 Obama Peoria Town Hall. Remember, they were pushing this guy. So look, Barack was much more of somebody, he was being managed, but he was out on the stage every single day. He, classically trained lawyer. They put him into a political position in literally one of the most corrupt areas in the country, probably the most corrupt area in the Midwest, a.k.a. Chicago, Chi-Town. And those behind the Barack star absolutely have something to do with this new administration. Absolutely. But although Barack did what he was told, he constantly did press conferences. He constantly was actually, I would say, popular amongst his base. You could actually see it. People loved Barack Obama. Now, there were obviously conservatives that couldn't stand him, but the left embraced him. A lot of the middle embraced him. And really, he was Bush 2.0, right? He was George W. 2.0. And again, the great narrative that they set early on was this narrative of peacemaker. He's a peacemaker. We're going to give him the Nobel Prize for nothing. For nothing. Let's just give it to him. There it is. Here's the Nobel Prize, Barack star. Baraka, yeah. Like, what? And meanwhile, more drone bombings, more military involvement in the Middle East, more military involvement everywhere overseas. I mean, you can get into the fact this guy is there from 2018 to 2016, and you've got Ukraine, you've got AFRICOM, you've got Syria, you've got the beginnings of what's happening in Yemen, and continually happening in Yemen. All under the guise of somebody who sounds and looks like a Hollywood actor, who changed his name. Yeah, that's a genuine person. But that isn't malleable enough. Now they've got a zombie puppet in chief that doesn't have to do press conferences, isn't going to debate, okay, and is visibly done, gone, out of it. He was visibly out of it before they even installed him. And that's what makes me so frightened and scared, that these people just don't care, and they're actually going to do this. They're actually not going to have debates. They're actually going to act like the party wants him, when somebody like Oprah Winfrey, who, the Democrats would love to see run because of her popularity, all right, is like, come on now. Now, we love Joe Biden. We can't get enough Joe Biden. Again, the reality they want us to swallow, he's the most popular president of all time, yet there are arenas chanting, "Let's go Brandon," on a weekly basis. Arenas chanting that. I can't remember a time when arenas of people, tens of thousands of people, not at the RNC or the DNC or at a political event, not at a lock her up event, no, at a basketball game, baseball game, UFC fight, chanted that or chanted something derogatory about a United States president. And I've seen some pretty unpopular ones. George Bush is one of the more unpopular ones out there. And I want to highlight in this clip that even the press corps that has promoted Joe, and I'm going to show you this article, how ironic, Joe Biden is actually making America great again. What planet are we living on? Joe Biden's making the country great again? Joe Biden's not doing anything at all to make the country better, or in my opinion, even worse, because he doesn't run anything. All he does is sign off and nod. All right? Karine Jean-Pierre visibly making more decisions. I mean, I would imagine Karine Jean-Pierre actually makes more decisions in a day than Joe Biden. Like, she makes the decision of when she goes to the bathroom. Joe Biden can't make that decision. He just goes. All right? She makes the decision on what clothes she's going to wear. Joe Biden needs to be dressed on a daily basis. 100%. You think Joe Biden can dress himself at this point? He can barely walk. He can barely walk. And the propaganda they're putting out for this guy is still just so cartoon level, it's hard to imagine. But I digress. I want to play this exchange with Jean-Karine Pierre. Jean-Karine Pierre. And a member of the press corps being like, hey, this isn't normal that the president doesn't talk to the press.
The lack of any interaction in a formal setting to have a press conference.
I mean, the president takes shouted questions.
This is not the norm.
So I'll say this. It is also unprecedented that a president takes as many shouted questions as this president has. And he has.
I know the administration, and I'll tell you, almost every day.
No, I've worked in other administrations. That's just not true. That's just a bold-faced lie. And it is. It's a bold-faced lie. I want to remind you, most presidents don't take these kind of questions. I got this clip. It's old school, but a lot of people are going to remember it. And this clip is George Bush during the burgeoning Iraq War, okay? And in it, you're going to see him roll up with his pappy, the press corps right there.
Yeah, I'm distressed to hear about the latest suicide bombers in Israel. For those who yearn for peace in the Middle East, for those in the Arab lands, for those in Europe, for those all around the world who yearn for peace, we must do everything we possibly can to stop the terror.
I mean, he's golfing. Now, Biden, look, I'm not a golf guy. I don't mind that Biden doesn't play golf. But the fact of the matter is that, if the golf ball was the size of a softball, then Biden would have trouble hitting it and swinging a golf club. He's definitely not going to be out there. And you see, George is riding around with his pappy. It's George and George. It's the W and the HW. And this is, let's promote the war of terror time. But you hear it. Ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da. All the cameras going off. That's the norm. The president takes shouted questions. Come on. And look, this is absurd. Now watch this drive.
There are a few killers who want to stop the peace process that we have started.
The peace process that the United States started by invading Afghanistan, taking it over, by the shock and awe campaign. Let me repeat that. The shock and awe campaign in Iraq. And, I think I need to bring this up. Let's see if we can find it. Of course we can. It's just going to take a minute. That's how we does it over here. And I want people to understand that the shock and awe campaign that they wanted to wage, shock and awe, that's pre 9/11 that the military-industrial complex came up with that term. Everything's recycled, right? And I just brought it up because I think that it's important. We haven't gone to this document in some time. But for people who are new or, just want a refresher course, here is Future Strategic Issues, Future Warfare 2025. This is the pre-9/11. Let me say that again. Pre-9/11 document. Talks about CNN syndrome, right? Because that's totally normal. But it also talks about, what's this? Find related. I don't need any of that. Come on. Boom. So let's do it. Let's just type in shock. Let's see what we got to get here. There it is. Shock and awe. Long-term fingerprintless campaigns as opposed to shock and awe. So what they're talking about here, if you haven't noticed, is genomically targeted pathogens for individuals or societies. What does that mean? Let me break that down for you. That's bioweapons against specific individuals based on their biology or entire indigenous populations. That's fingerprintless biological warfare. But don't worry, we got a little shock and awe for you when it comes to Iraq. Again, pre-9/11 document right here. Where do you think they get these terms? Binary agents distributed via imported products, vitamins, clothing, and food. What? Huh? I mean, wow. Wow. And I don't even know what aflatoxin is. Okay, it's a natural parts per billion carcinogen, but they talk about airborne varieties of Ebola, Lassa, and other viruses as a tool for warfare in this thing. Again, it's titled Future Strategic Warfare. So even in the land of shock and awe, George Bush is talking to the press, right? The boy idiot. And again, very much a malleable puppet. I would say that his father, 100%, actually had more influence as to what that administration will do or did, based on the fact that most of them came from the first Bush administration in the first place. Wolfowitz, Cheney, Rumsfeld, etc. It's just a fact. That's fact, Jack. Let's go back to George Bush.
We must not let them. For the sake of humanity, for the sake of the Palestinians who suffer, for the sake of the Israelis who are under attack, we must stop the terror. I call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
Now watch this drive. You know, I don't long for those days. I certainly don't long for those days at all. But we're in Clown Town, baby. We're over the top Clown Town. Okay? I mean, we're going to play the Biden re-election video as he's announced his re-election. We're going to go into the fact that the DNC obviously does not want any type of primary, but at the same time, their base doesn't want Joe Biden as president. Even the media, like the Chuck Todds of the world, don't want him as president. They know how bad this has looked. But again, we're getting gaslit constantly by the authoritative sources, the algorithm, and big tech Trojan horse civilian systems. So, look, RFK Jr. 100% right when he says, the system is rigged. I repeat that. The system is rigged. No kidding. No kidding. Now, think what they did to Tulsi Gabbard, somebody else that people will tell me, she's controlled opposition. She's controlled opposition. Number one, we have to understand that not everybody is going to have the same information as myself and my great audience. I know the vast majority of you guys get it, okay? That you tune into this show basically not just for tomorrow's news today, but a historical reference as to where we are today and stories that you're not going to see in mainline conservative media or even quote-unquote alternative media a lot of the time. And that's great. I'm glad that we're doing that. I'm glad we have that audience. But at the same time, does that mean that Tulsi Gabbard is aware, for instance, of the Pakistani ISI 9/11 connection? No. You know, I talked to people on the inside of that campaign. No clue. No idea. Zero. Zip. Zilch. Somebody soon in our military. But that was an anti-war voice, and they did everything in their power to successfully marginalize her voice to the point where you would watch a 2.5-hour DNC debate, and she would get 3 minutes. She'd get 3 minutes. Now, you give Andrew Yang all the time in the world because he's pumping a UBI, putting everybody's heads on universal basic income swivels. So you'll promote that guy, right? He's the hip libertarian Democrat, but not anti-war Tulsi. Kind of the same thing with the Tuckins, in my opinion. You know, the tuck. I mean, this may be the move. We don't know for sure. I don't like speculating, but let's look at this. Source: Tucker Carlson's prior $1.6 million per month contract has as much as 18 months remaining. Yikes. Fox CEO Lacan Murdoch and Carlson were in the middle of negotiating an extension through 2029 when the Murdochs decided to bench him instead. They don't want Tucker going anywhere, and they're going to force him to sit on the bench for months as they recover from his departure. Note, linked article for background and sourcing is in the Independent. So that's out of the Independent in the UK. It's also being reported that he and Diane Lemon have hired Brian Freeman to represent them against said networks. Now, look, if Tucker can't talk for 18 months, that's huge in the election cycle. I saw some people calling for him to run for the president of the United States because he is no longer on Fox. I don't know if that's the move. I don't know what a good politician he'd make. Again, he's said more truth recently than anybody in the mainstream. It's even close. I'd have to hearken all the way back to Keith Olbermann, pre-TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, maybe even pre-Obama, to have anybody that remotely challenged the war machine. And to Olbermann's credit, back in the day, he did. Now he's just gone. But I would be remiss if I didn't at least show everybody some of the reasons that people who I believe are very intelligent and enlightened and are aware of what's going on geopolitically around the globe in most cases still can't stand the Tuck, still say he's controlled opposition. And I am so careful when I start talking controlled opposition. Why is that? Well, it's simple, because I've been controlled opposition, right? Like, people are like, you're controlled opposition. You're the bad guy, Jason. You don't talk about this and this and this. And honestly, the subjects that always get brought up are ones that I don't focus on because they're bullshit or I don't believe them. And I have brought many of them up, but to debunk them or to challenge them, it's you're controlled opposition. Gets thrown around a lot, okay? And then I'll have people in my feed promoting other quote-unquote independent media, right? You don't have this person on, and you need to listen to this person. And I remember one person in particular. I'm not even going to give the person any kind of shout-out, but, you know, I'd have trolls in here or people that don't think they're trolling, but, you know, they are. And they put this person's name. You need to have this person on. And this person attacks a wide range of people, including Whitney Webb, who I have just the utmost respect for. Love Whitney Webb's work. Think it's absolutely tremendous. All right. And she's yeah. I know I'm going to like somebody not only when they put out the caliber of work that Whitney has put out, but when they're attacked again and again and again by the same people that have attacked me again and again and again for years. For years. So when I see those people attacking her and they're attacking me, I'm like, oh, there's a problem here. There's a real problem here. This person's doing good work. Why is this person being attacked? Okay? So this one particular person you need to have them on. You need to talk to them. They're the authority, Jason. This person was basically laughing about the 2020 election and saying there was no chance that Joe Biden could get in because Trump was so aligned with Israel. Okay, and here comes the mental illness, okay, of those that believe everything in the world, every problem is Israel. And look, Israel's got real issues. I was in the dentist chair yesterday, and we're talking geopolitics. My dentist loves to talk geopolitics. Well, my mouth is wide open, and my teeth are getting picked at or drilled up. And we were talking basically about nation states and alliances and the Middle East. And yes, Israel is part of that Anglo-American, even Saudi alliance in the Middle East for the most part via the military-industrial complex and via Five Eyes. Okay? That's real. But at the same time, I would not consider them an ally of the United States. Number one, the power structure within the United States is completely rotten, and I would equate that power structure in this country, which I love, with the corrupt power structure inside of Israel. Okay, and that's the problem, because the question came up. He goes, wait, are you anti-Semitic? And I'm like, anti-Semitic? What they did, and I'm talking about the Israeli establishment, what they did to their own citizens and people during the COVID-19 84 nightmare with their lockdowns, restrictions, and passports, some of the worst. I go, so no, I'm not anti-Semitic. All right? I don't believe that Israel should even be, quote unquote, eradicated. I actually do believe that you need a two-state solution if you want any chance at peace in the Middle East. But then you have Netanyahu, who's now in power again, after not being in power. You have massive protests there. You have checkpoints in Israel that have automated sniper weapon systems on them that don't need a human being to kill. And Netanyahu and others in power in Israel basically applauded 9/11 by saying, you know, this is helping us out big time in the Middle East now that we have the United States war machine there. Okay? So all those things are happening. And because Trump was huge on Israel, right? Sheldon Adelson, one of his main backers, of course, big on Israel as well, he makes Jerusalem the capital. I am not in agreement with that. I think that was a dangerous thing he did, a dangerous proposal. But again, the independent journalists that were saying that there was no way that Trump could lose, it was all based on Israel. Well, I got news for you. He lost. You were wrong. You were way wrong. This person was laughing about it. Oh, all the Trump tards think they're going to steal the election from him. He gets that totally wrong. And again, you know, his followers just don't even mention it. They just bend the knee. He's a prophet. He gets everything right. You're controlled opposition, Jason. You're the controlled opposition out there. I want to show you this video of Chuck Todd talking to Netanyahu recently about Biden, okay, and his love for Biden. So yeah, just like when Mike Pompeo was up there with Bibi, and it was a huge love. I did a whole video on it, a huge love fest. It's hard for me to watch. Just Pompeo smiling, and boy, I love to go to Israel, and they're the best. And here's Netanyahu praising Biden because he doesn't care who's in office. You know, he cares who's controlling that office. That's all.
President Biden has weighed in, concerned about the judicial reform. Do you believe this is impacting U.S.-Israeli relations?
No, I don't. I think President Biden has been a great friend of Israel. I've known him for 40 years, from the time he was a senator, through vice president, through president. I know his commitment to Israel's security. Friends can have disagreements on occasion, but I share with him the view that we should act, not only share the view, I'm actually acting on it, to try to reach a broad consensus as possible. I want to tell you one thing, Chuck.
Yes.
When I compare the degree of coordination between Israel and America on security matters, on intel, on cyber, economic cooperation,
yeah.
I mean, there's just no comparison to where this was 27 years ago. Today, I think Israel, I always say America is Israel's indispensable and by far the best ally. But I want to tell you, I don't think you have a better ally in the world than Israel. Because
you don't have a better ally in the world than Israel. Excuse me? Now, again, Five Eyes just shows the spying. But you go back to 9/11, there's clearly an Israeli role, just like there's clearly a Pakistani role, and there's clearly a Saudi Arabian role, and there's clearly a continuity of government inside the United States role. And when that investigation into the Israelis that were being rounded up prior to 9/11 and got rounded up on 9/11 and then after 9/11, all connected. That's a team, all right, that is not working in our best interest. That's a team that was connected to Amdocs and Comverse, telecommunications companies that had penetrated not only mainline government offices, but secret government offices and locations, according to Fox News of all people. But again, that's the whole thing. Fox, MSNBC, they're all different flavors of the great narrative. There's rarely a meaningful challenge. And whether you think that Tuck was controlled opposition or not, he was bringing meaningful conversations and challenges to that narrative. Let's wrap up the Netanyahu clip.
Because Israel has become a great technological power and a great asset to the United States. And our cooperation, mutual cooperation, saves a lot of American and Israeli lives.
Mutual cooperation saves American and Israeli lives. Remember, this is the guy that said he had medical records on 98% of his citizens going back 20 years, and he wants to slap a genetic database on there and talks about, well, most people will just volunteer, but if not, we'll just pay them. We'll pay them. And then we'll have that genetic database on top of it for a bioeconomy, everything's economics, a bioeconomy, the likes of which the vast majority of us have never and will never see. Now, we only got about a little less than 20 minutes in this end of the broadcast. I do want to remind everybody that we're going to be going over to redvoicemedia.com/Jason and redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. $10 a month. Start for $1 for the first week. You don't like it, cancel it. But you can also lock it in, and help support this broadcast. Let Red Voice Media know that you're tuning in because of Jason Bermas. Lock it in at $100 for the year. We're giving you 2 hours a day, 4 days a week. Quite frankly, I want to expand that. I'm actually going to get in touch with Ray today. There is a new literal 12-hour lineup coming just around the corner in a little over a week's time now. I mean, maybe it's even a little under a week's time. Actually, yeah, it is. It's a little under a week's time before we hit May 1st. And there may be a little bit of a change. It's looking like I'm going to be going live an hour later, but there's a couple other things that I want to work out. Perhaps even getting the second hour here to be free, but then at the same time, maybe giving some extras to make sure that the paid portion of the broadcast, those that are supporting are still happy, maybe with an extra 2 hours. And when I say an extra 2 hours, I'd like those 2 hours to be exclusive interviews that we tease over the week. So in other words, we tease 1 or 2 minutes of it here on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday, and then on Friday and Saturday, they just get released on premium. And then, of course, just like anything, 2 weeks later, they would be released for free. I think that might be a really good model because we want the information to get out, but we also all have to eat, right? I got bills, and my rent ain't cheap, everybody. I'm paying more than a mortgage on my rent. I hate even talking about these things because some people living in the cities, they'll be like, I can't believe that you think that that's a lot for rent, especially for, it's listed like as a 3-bedroom. It's really a 4-bedroom house. Remember, I did move here, bringing my sister and her kids and them living with me. I've stayed in this house. I may be getting rid of it in November, but, bare bones, nothing included, no heat, no water, no nothing. $1,700 a month just for that. Then, my car's in the shop. My teeth cost money. I hope everybody likes my teeth. I've been going through a lot of pain on them. And without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this, right? Let's be honest. Without Red Voice Media, without the Rockfins of the world, all those things. And there's Ray. Yeah, we should figure out a schedule. Absolutely. Let's definitely talk after today. Awesome. Very cool. And he'll be on Matt Couch's show today, Ray Dietrich. So, and I love that he listens to the show, that he's very hands-on. You don't get that with every network. Trust me. Trust me, you don't. So, big things coming. I'm loving that you guys are supporting me. Remember, always you'll be able to listen for free in real time over at the Podbean. I'd like to get the call-ins going. That's tough because you need people to be a little bit more tech savvy. It's not like there's a call-in number. You need to do it through the app. And then that's one of the things that I actually do need to be involved with the producer on the other side in communication with. Makes it just slightly more difficult. Plus, you got to have a decent amount of people in there. A lot of people are in my chat and they can't understand, like newer people. Wow, the chat doesn't move that quick. There's not that many people commenting. Out of I think there's like 240 people watching right now on YouTube. Okay. And I know that we've got more on Rumble, especially the RVM's Rumble, my Rumble, Rockfin. Used to have Twitter, etc. But out of those 200 people, there are 20 people that are making comments? 20? By the way, thank you, Stephen Thames, for the tip. Also, Scott Free for the tip. We do appreciate it. So, even less people than are commenting on there want to make the call. So, if I want to do a call-in show and I'm only going to get one caller in an hour, that doesn't work. That don't work. You need to be able to boom, 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 boom. You got to have a dozen callers on the line to get through an hour of talk radio, period. Just, you need to. All right. Like I said, we got 15 minutes. Hopefully you're going to come over. Before I play the Tuckins and him attacking David Ray Griffin on 9/11 all the way back in 2006. So now you're talking, my God, you're talking over 15 years ago. Jeez. Time closer to 20. Time flies. I want to play Donnie T responding to the new Biden ad, okay? I've got a woke Biden clip where a couple months ago, an individual from Newsmax asked Karine Jean-Pierre if Biden is woke. I hate that term. But Biden's never going to get asked that question because he's not doing press conferences. And when kids in Ireland go, what's the key to the top of success, sir? Good. He ain't a top of what top of what? Well, we got to make sure nobody has COVID. And Dad, he's asking you what the keys to success are. Well, I'm probably the wrong person to ask that question. He's got a toy airplane in his hand. Ooh. It's a bad joke. Meanwhile, the other guy, who is actually the most popular president, hands down, of my generation, without a doubt, love him or hate him, he's the guy. I've never seen, even the Barack star, who I would have argued was the most popular president before him in my generation. And I know there's a lot of Reagan people that might disagree with me. No. Sorry. I was around in the 80s also. I'd say that Clinton surpassed Reagan in popularity, especially at the time. And post-presidency. A lot of people liked him because they didn't like either Bush. Right? You went from Reagan to a stark contrast of the guy that was behind Reagan, that wasn't as well-spoken, wasn't the Hollywood star, was the career CIA guy. And that didn't work. But that's okay because they brought in his buddy from Mena, Arkansas via the Iran-Contra scandal after that. You see? That's the real deal. But when Donnie T puts out a rebuttal to Joe Biden running for president, it's nowhere in the mainstream. No, it's barely on Fox, if it's on Fox at all. 1 minute clip, 2 minute clip, 30-second clip. We got about a 3-minute clip of Donnie T talking about this stuff, 3.5. But you can't find it on YouTube, hard to find on Twitter. I don't like that I have to go to other social media platforms that may not be around in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months to see this stuff. Parler went under. Truth Social, not something I've never really been involved in. Maybe RVM made me an account there, I'm not sure. Telegram, I'm on it, but am I really? Like I'm barely on any of these things because I don't like poisoning myself. I'm not a scroller. I'm not a TikTok. I don't have TikTok. I don't got Snapchat. Okay? Gab is another one I don't have. And I don't do. And it's just because I don't want to be beholden to a device or social media on any level. On any level. I want to use them as tools. I want to make sure that tool is a hammer in my hand and I'm using the hammer. That there's not somebody taking the hammer out of my hand and bashing me in the head with it over and over and over again, making me look at drag kits. Okay? So there's a fine line. But if they can censor the President of the United States, there's no doubt they can censor everybody. Everybody, anytime they would like to. That's an issue. That was one of the main issues I was talking about during the 2020 election. As it was happening in real time, they were gearing you up that they were going to censor the president for misinformation, disinformation, and lies. And that's how 90% of the mainstream media reported on it. You didn't get to watch. The only place you could really watch Donald Trump on a television station during the 2020 counting of the ballots was C-SPAN. To their credit. C-SPAN. That's it. That's scary, man. That should frighten you. Okay? That should really get under your skin. They did that to the president. It should really get under your skin. This is the first guy they're going after criminally on absurd and obscene charges that have nothing to do with the war crimes that are out there, with foreign policy, other than Russia, which is all a hoax, which is all Johnny nonsense, right? Never, ever, ever. No. They want to bring up a payoff to a porn star and a payoff to another model and a payoff to a door guy. They don't even talk about those other two because they're not as hip or cool. They're not a trendy talking point like the other one. And then this week, they've got that rape trial with, E. Jean Carroll? Is that her name? The actress? E. Jean Carroll. Yeah. She's reliable. And I don't know. Who knows? Maybe she's telling the truth. She doesn't seem like she is. It seems political to me. But I don't know. I wasn't there. But the fact that that's getting media traction, the fact that that's going to be another criminal trial to try to tie up Donald Trump, that has nothing to do with 3 or 4 more other investigations where they're going after him, should let you know they don't really like that guy. Okay? There are certain political entities that do like the guy. Overall, the predator class, the managerial class, whatever you want to call them, do not like that guy. And he ain't perfect. And he cowed down during the COVID-19 84 nightmare, and he's doubled down on the hate and lies. No doubt about it. This ain't a Trump rally, okay? But, once again, compared to the other guy and how... Okay, I've got to look at goddamn articles, okay, that say ludicrous, insane, and asinine things like this. Ironically, Biden's the one making America great again. It's from 2 days ago. Hey, Biden's the guy who's making America. He's the MAGA dude. He sits there and talks about ultra MAGA extremists. Little does he know, he's as MAGA as it gets. What? Again, we're living in the post-truth world on the puppet parade. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right, let's go to Donnie T talking about Biden.
You could take the 5 worst presidents in American history and put them together, and they would not have done the damage Joe Biden has done to our nation in just a few short years. Not even close. Thanks to Joe Biden's socialist spending calamity, American families are being decimated by the worst inflation in half a century. Banks are failing, our currency is crashing, and the dollar will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat in over 200 years. Real wages have been falling 24 months in a row. In other words, under Biden, workers have gotten a pay cut each and every month for 2 straight years.
Tell me where he's wrong. I'm waiting. Where is he wrong? And by the way, can we get 150 thumbs up over on YouTube before we wrap this up today. The economy's awful. When this guy got in, I was still running a bar. Okay? I was still running the bar. I was actually just starting to run the bar around that time. And I'll never forget it, man. Right away, I mean, within the week he got elected and he signed off on these new tax regulations, there was more money in my paycheck. And I'm sorry, but for the vast majority of Americans, it is the economy, stupid. Yes, we want a prosperous and peaceful society. People like myself also understand that we also need a strong military. I don't love that rhetoric. I do understand that the vast majority of people, they get this. They get what it's like when they're saving an extra Benjamin or two, okay? They get it. It's a big deal. Most homes, we've been gaslit once again into acting like that's not a big deal. Meanwhile, again, 70+% of Democrats don't want Joe Biden running. They don't even want him running.
We have surrendered our energy independence, just like we surrendered in Afghanistan, which we had just a short time ago, and the price of gasoline just hit a 5-month high, and it's going much higher than that. Under my leadership, we had the most secure border in U.S. history by far. Never had a border like this. Under Biden, the southern border has been abolished and millions of illegal aliens have been released into our communities. What's happening now is beyond belief. They're coming in from mental institutions and prisons. They're all being emptied. They're being dumped into the United States of America.
Now, here's a point where I'll have some contention with this guy. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't criminals that come over the border. I'm not saying that there aren't mentally ill people that come over the border. I would say that the vast majority of those coming over the border are simply looking for a better life for themselves and their families. And look, let's be honest. If you're willing to give somebody who's lived in a third world nation in relative squalor, okay, without a formal education in many instances, especially beyond high school, yeah, the United States seems like a pretty sweet deal if they're going to set you up with a home, set you up with welfare, okay, and set you up with in a community where basically it's on you and your decision what level of participation you want to have. All right? And that's the real issue to me. It's not just the illegal alien situation coming over and the criminal element there, but more of creating a society that is debt-based, openly entitled, and one of dependence on government entities, not independence from government entities, which is extremely important.
Many of these people are very dangerous. They're being dumped. We're like a dumping ground. Our cities have been overrun with homelessness, drug addicts, and violent criminals who are being released from jail en masse with no retribution whatsoever, while law enforcement is weaponized against law-abiding conservatives or Republicans or people they just don't like.
Glad he said that. Glad he said that, because he's not wrong there either. And you notice the people that they just don't like. I was in that dental chair. You know, a little bruise still here because I ripped my damn mouth open here. It's always so tough. They just arrested some leftists. And I keep telling people this. I hate it. Oh, conservatives and Republicans are being censored. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party, pal. It's not just conservatives. It's not right-wing media. It's anybody they don't like. Anybody that challenges the great narrative. That's who they want to censor. That's who they want to arrest.
Our children are being indoctrinated and mutilated by left-wing freaks and zealots. The senior ranks of our military have gone completely woke and our military is suffering greatly. Biden has totally humiliated our nation on the world stage, starting with the Afghanistan disaster, perhaps the most embarrassing event in the history of our country. It meant so much to our enemies when they watched that horrible retreat.
See, again, I don't know if that's the worst thing we've ever seen. Nobody remembers Goodnight Saigon? Like, nobody remembers Vietnam and leaving there? So, I wasn't even around. I remember. I would say that the most embarrassing thing on the global stage is that you have a malleable puppet that can't speak and is clearly in charge of nothing. And look, he says that many a time. He's talking about how Zombie J ain't running anything, and he's, it's not real. All right, we're at 8. There's more Trump. We got the tuck-ins. I've got other clips we're going to play, more news. I need you guys to come on over to redvoicemedia.com/Jason, redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. We're going to throw it to the producer. As we lock out of this, I want to remind you, you can listen for free if you do not want to pay over at the InfoWarrior Podbean channel. But again, consider supporting the broadcast. Consider supporting true independent